Hello everybody, it's your friendly neighbourhood incel basement dwelling comic book reviewer Rorschach of Swindon here. How's everyone doing this new comic book day? Okay then, so this is going to be the main book of the week. I think this will be the one that everyone's talking about because we're going back to the 1960s with Spider-Man, and he's tagging along with these helicopters, no doubt going to Nam to napalm those commies. So this is going to be quite cool, isn't it? We're going to have Spider-Man fighting against the communists rather than your regular Spider-Man books where Spider-Man is actually a communist in America today. Because the ideology of communism has somewhat morphed over the years, but it's still the dominant ideology in the world today, apart from the growing non-threat of peaceful Islam, of course. So communism in the 1960s, it was the bourgeoisie versus the proletariat, wasn't it? And the bourgeoisie were the evil capitalists and the factory owners, and the proletariat were the white working class men, people like Peter Parker. So that's not a thing today, is it? No one's on the side of the white working class men today. Well, Donald Trump kind of pretended that he was, but he doesn't appear to have done anything for them. Anyway, so the white working class men who were the proletariat, were the marginalised, were the victimised, were the oppressed class of the 1960s, have now been flipped on their heads by the communists because they are of no use to the communists anymore. So the white working classes are now the oppressor. They've now got institutional privilege. Yeah, right. You get privilege if you've got skin that looks like this. I bloody wish. So yeah, it's being flipped. And so communism, which is all about manipulating low IQ people, has won the battle. It's changed, it's morphed. It had to adapt, like the pathogen that it is. It adapted and it's taken over the Western world today. So when you go to university today, they're going to pump your head full of cultural Marxism. They're going to hate you if you are a straight white man, and if you're a non-straight white man, well, you are a marginalised person, and as a marginalised person, you actually get real life privilege. You get preferential treatment absolutely everywhere in the corporate world. We know how it works today, don't we? So in the 1960s, of course, the argument was, should we go to the war in Vietnam? After all, we need to spread the capitalist ideology over this poisonous Marxist communist ideology, don't we? Don't we, Peter Parker? So do you think that current day communist Chip Zdarsky is going to mention communism at all in a book from the 1960s? Well, I'm sure if you watch television on a daily basis, all the talking heads would have been saying we have to go to war to stop the spread of communism. It's not even mentioned. Not even mentioned once. The C word is not mentioned. And by C, I mean communism and capitalism. So Peter Parker is debating whether or not he wants to go to war, and it's not to stop the spread of communism. It's because, well, he might feel guilty if he doesn't go to war because he's supposed to be a hero. He's supposed to be defending his country, isn't he? So is Peter Parker going to defend his country? The more important, actually, the more interesting question is the symbol of America going to protect America from the spread of communism? Captain America, he's wearing the stars and stripes. He's the very definition of American independence and fighting against poisonous ideologies. He's going to do what's best for his country, isn't he? I have to do a spoiler at the end of this review, okay? So here comes the spoiler. So there's a nice little debate there. Are you going to go, Cap? Oh, I don't know. I'm going to have to go over there myself. What? I'd have to go to Vietnam and decide whose side I'm on. What? So Captain America is not going to defend America. He's not going to fight against communism. Again, it's not mentioned. Instead, he's going to go to Vietnam and then decide which side he's going to be on. So he goes to Vietnam. Here comes the spoiler. He goes to Vietnam and he decides that the American soldiers are the bad guys and that the poor Viet Cong are the good guys. So he's going to be on the side of the communists. He's going to actually do what Chris Evans, the actor who plays Captain America today, does every day on Twitter. He's going to work for the opposition. He's going to be pushing anti-American, anti-capitalist and communist views, and he's going to be fighting for the other side. So whilst this was kind of annoying to see Captain America join the side of the communists. It kind of did make sense because we got Chip Zdarsky writing the book today in 2019, and Chip Zdarsky works for the modern Marvel, and the modern Marvel is all about cultural Marxism, isn't it? It's about splitting people up, it's about dividing and conquering. And what better way to do that than to actually divide the genders? Get the men and women to be squabbling amongst each other. Get the women working. Get them concentrating on their career. And get them, well, to stop breeding. That's what Captain Marvel is all about. The love interest in this movie was another woman, wasn't it? It wasn't a man. The message from modern Marvel is clear. It's an attack on the West. It's an attack on America. It's an attack on white people. It really is. It's a eugenics program trying to convince women that they don't need men, and they're not needing men, they're not going to have kids, are they? So it's terrible. So the ideology there at the end of the book with Captain America, he needs to chuck that away now, or, you know, paint a hammer and sickle on it. It's actually very appropriate, makes a lot of sense to me, because, yeah, Marvel today, they're a bunch of communists. They really are. Okay. I just want to say a couple of things about the artwork, which is great, reminds me of the good old days, so top job there. And also the character portrayals as well. Spiderman comes across as a bit of a hotshot, a bit of a big head, a bit of a Burke, really, if anyone still uses that word. And I've got no problem with that. I've got no problem with the character portrayals here. It's really good stuff. Really involving stuff. And it did remind me of reading an old comic book. It's just that twist at the end with Captain America openly declaring that he's now anti-American. I don't think you would see that back in the 1960s. No, you would not. Definitely, you would 100% not see that in the 1960s. In the 1960s, Captain America would shockingly be on the side of America. But in a modern comic book, a 2019 comic book, written by a bunch of corporate communists, and there were a bunch of corporate communists in Marvel today, Captain America, of course, can't fight for America, can he? Because in the real world, yeah, Chris Evans fights for open borders, and he's about as un-American as you can get, as are all of the other people who work for Marvel, you know, the MCU. They're all anti-American, they're all a bunch of cultural Marxist commies, and that being reflected in the pages of this comic book, it kind of makes sense to me. It kind of makes sense. Okay, so that's my opinion on the book. If you've read it, or what's yours? And also, let me know what you think about what I've said about the spread of communism, and how, well, if you look at the world today, the Western world today, the fight that we all, you know, all the Americans were fighting in the 1960s against the spread of international communism, the McCarthy era, all that kind of stuff. It wasn't a phantom menace, was it? It was a real thing that did actually have to be stopped. And the bad news, of course, is we didn't stop it. And now the communists have moved into the corporations, and the corporate communists are running the West and running it straight into the ground. Yeah, that's my opinion. What's yours? Let me know in the comments down below. And thanks for checking out the review. Please like and subscribe to the channel if you'd be so kind. And hit the bell for instant updates from corporate commie Google. Yeah, they might send them to you, or they won't. You never know. You never know. I might even have an algorithmic pat on the butt if I say something nice about Captain Marvel in this video. So I'll tell you what, I'll end this video just to say saying something nice about Captain Marvel to help me on the algorithms. Hasn't she got lovely hair? There you go. That should help me out. See you guys later.